Okay, everybody, welcome back. We're so glad to have you here. And this week we have a special guest, which is one of our students who now is in college, but also works for us as a teacher assistant. So Emily Gustafson is here with us, and she's a freshman at the California Baptist University, and she's majoring in psychology and then with a minor in American Sign Language. How cool is that? What a great combination, kind of being able to communicate with everyone that way. So Emily describes herself as a military brat. So we'll find out more about what that looks like and what that means is what it's like to be a military brat, moving around a lot. So she's had a chance to travel. And so, oftentimes when you travel a lot, and we have a lot of military families, that homeschooling is a great way to go when you're in the military so that you're able to do that. And so Emily has been homeschooled. We'll find out how long, I think probably her whole entire academic career, right? And now here she is in college. Emily also started with us in our pre-algebra course, our first math course that we have. And she went all the way through all 5 of our curriculums through pre-calculus. And she did such a great job that we asked her to come on, and she works part-time with us as one of our teacher assistants. So super excited, Emily, to have you here today. Thanks for being here. And
Yeah, thank you for having me.
yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that we find often is that, we talk to a lot of parents, right? And we talk to parents give us their best tips and what it's like to be, a homeschool parent and family and how it all works. But I think what parents want to hear more about, and our other and students as well, is they want to hear about you, our students, and what's it like for you, and how did you make the transition and moving, from into middle school and high school and into college. So that's what we're going to kind of chat a little bit about today. So, but first, let's get to know you a little better. So tell us a little bit about your family, your brothers and sisters, what makes you a military brat, and let's start there.
Yeah, so my dad is in the Navy. He's an intelligence officer, and he's been in the service for almost 30 years. He'll retire in a couple of years, but so every few years we've had to move around. My mom was an engineer, photogrammetrist, but she became a stay-at-home mom when we did our first big move. I have a brother, Ivan. He's 13. He also does Mr. D, loves Mr. D math. But yeah, so because of my dad's job, we do move around every few years. So we have lived in, the first big move we did was we lived in San Diego and we moved to Italy. And then from Italy, we lived in Washington, D.C. And then we moved to Washington State. And then we moved back to San Diego, which is where we are now.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so, yeah.
I think when I met you, you were in
DC.
You were in DC.
I
Yeah.
just
'Cause I
got into
remember
DC.
you had just moved there, right? That's right. I
Yeah.
remember you telling us that. Oh, that's awesome. Very cool. Okay. So do you have a favorite place where you've lived so far?
Um, I really loved, I mean, I've lived everywhere I've lived, honestly. I really loved living in DC. That was like a really cool opportunity for me. I really love American history, and there's a lot of that there. But living in Europe was awesome. I love to travel, so seeing so many different countries was amazing. And yeah, I've loved everywhere I've lived, really.
That's awesome. Did you get to learn any Italian while you were in Italy?
Yeah, I was fluent in Italian. I've definitely lost some now because not very many people speak Italian, but I was fluent, and still sometimes my mom will talk with us a little bit in Italian just so we can keep it up a little, but yeah.
Wow, that's cool. And your dad, does he speak a few different languages, being an intelligence officer in the Navy?
He doesn't, he was fluent in Spanish and he's picked up
Okay.
some Italian, but other than that, not really.
Okay, well, that's cool. Well, you get to teach him then. That's great.
Yeah.
So have you been homeschooled your whole entire, until you went to college? Was it always
I
homeschooled?
actually haven't. I was public schooled when we lived in San Diego the first time. I did public school from, preschool all the way, or kindergarten age, all the way through third grade. Then that's when we moved to Italy. And when we lived in Italy we lived there for 3 years. And for the first 2 years, I went to an Italian private school. And then the last year kind of rolled around, and um, my two options were, I was aging out of the school that I was in. So my options were Italian middle school, which I didn't really want to do, or there was an American DoD school on base, but it was really far from us and it wasn't the best school. So we were kind of thinking about all of our options, and I brought it to my mom and I was like, hey, why don't you just homeschool me? And she never wanted to homeschool before. That was never something. She always assumed that after we moved, because she quit her job when we moved to Italy, and we always assumed that when we moved back, she would go back to work. So she was like, I don't really know about that whole homeschool thing. I don't really know much about it. And I don't really want to do that. But we looked into it more and we found classical conversations, which is the homeschool curriculum we've done since then. And she really fell in love with the program. So we started that our last year in Italy. And we continue to do classical conversations all the way through, for me, all the way through high school.
Wow. Okay. So, oftentimes we ask moms, and they're like, it was their, their idea, and they tell you. I know when I told my son, we talked, and his mom and I talked about how we were going to do homeschooling for him, and then he was just finishing third grade. And when we told him, he cried. So upset. He's like, no, I don't want to homeschool my friend. And then by the end of fourth grade, his first year of homeschooling, he cried again. But this time it was like, Mom, Dad, thank you so much. He was so excited that we had done homeschooling for him. So, and today he would still cry, maybe not cry, but now he says thank you, which is great. Okay, so here you are getting ready for middle school. How did you find out about homeschooling? How did you know that was even an option?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I definitely had some homeschooled friends at the time. Living in Italy and with people who move around, there were a lot of homeschoolers. And also we had some friends who were Americans we kind of lived a little bit more remote. We didn't live close to the base. We kind of lived a little bit farther away. And we had some friends out there who were Americans, but they weren't military. They were missionaries and they homeschooled their kids. And so I was like, oh, they homeschool. Like I knew it was a thing. And I obviously didn't know much about it, but I knew it was a thing and felt like a better option than having to go to a school that I didn't feel comfortable going to.
That's
And
that's awesome.
another benefit of homeschooling was the original, like the first year, my mom thought she was only going to homeschool for a year and then we would go back to public school when we moved back. And she wanted us to get back into a more traditional American curriculum. But then after that first year, she fell in love with homeschooling and that's what we did ever since. So
Wow, that's so great. Well, good job, Emily. You got the whole family on track there. That's so cool. Okay, so homeschooling gives you a chance to have kind of a flexible day, right? And you really
Yeah,
get to look and see the best times it is for you to, when you're on, the best time for you to be on about doing schoolwork. And then there's other times it's the best time for you to be on doing other things, hobbies and things like that. So what is your favorite time? When do you like to study? What's your ideal day look like?
So I'm not very much of a morning person at all. So I like to sleep in. So typically working in the mornings wasn't really my thing. So I liked working kind of in the middle of the day where that's where I felt like I was the most awake and ready and could maximize my time. And then towards the evening, I would kind of slow down. And that's when I would like take a break to eat dinner, or just hang out with my family or go do any other activities I had. And if I really had a lot of work to do, then I am very much a night owl. So I do like to, I will stay up late. I even stayed up, it's same thing in college. Like I have mostly afternoon classes and I stayed up really late last night working on assignments because that's just sometimes my prime time to study. But typically I shoot for like the middle of the day.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So do you have think about all your times of being homeschooled, right? Do you have a favorite memory of something that you did when you were, as you think back?
Probably one of my favorite memories, just a little bit more broad, I guess, like a collection of memories, was when I did live in DC. Because we had the flexibility, because we were homeschooled, we could go into downtown DC and see all the monuments and museums. And we used to take some of our other homeschool friends and go on like field trips. And so one of like my favorite things we got to do was I'm really into like theater and stuff. So I love Shakespeare. And one year we were studying Shakespeare in school. So we went to the Folger Shakespeare Library in DC and got to like see the theater that they do like a bunch of Shakespeare plays at and like the whole collection. And that was amazing to see. And also we got to go to the Capitol a few times with some of our homeschool friends. And just like I said, I also really love American history. So just being there and having the flexibility to just go out into the day and like, let's just go to a museum today. Like that's our school for the day. We're going to go learn about, American history and we'll go to the American History Museum, or let's learn about air and space. We'll go to the Air and Space Museum. And just having that flexibility and being able to just have all those resources was really awesome.
That's amazing. That's very cool. Okay. All right. So what's your favorite subject?
It's a good question. I feel like every year changed. There was one year I said that we studied Shakespeare, and that was probably my favorite because we got to read lots of Shakespeare plays and analyze them. And we did have to write papers, and I don't love writing, but it was about something that I was interested in. So I did like that. I also really liked biology. So I do like the science. I tend to like the sciences. Wasn't a big fan of chemistry, but most of the other sciences I really enjoy, which is why I'm a psychology major now. Um, but yeah, I would say probably like the sciences or like any sort of arts and yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, very cool. Okay, so you've got homeschooling, right, going
Mhm.
on. You're in college now and being a psychology major with a minor in ASL, I think that's so cool. How about hobbies? Like what did you know, because you had all this opportunity
Yeah.
to do some extra things. What are some of your hobbies that you like to do?
Well, I have been a dancer for the majority of my life. I started when I was like 2 or 3, and even everywhere we've moved, I've tried to take some dance classes, or I was on a dance team in DC. And with my first year of college, I haven't really gone back into it, but I'm hoping next year my school has a dance team. So I'm going to go out for that again because I really did enjoy dancing. And even the last few years, I've been teaching dance. My first job was as a dance instructor at a YMCA. That was a lot of fun. So making my hobby something like a job was really, really cool for me. But I also love the performing arts in general. So I did a lot of theater as well. And that was super fun. I definitely enjoy doing theater and acting and performing.
That's
Those
awesome.
are
Now,
fun
do you do like,
experiences.
tap, jazz, ballet, hip hop? What do you do all of that
Yeah,
or?
all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
When
cool.
I lived in DC, like I said, I was like on this dance team, and we, because we were like a competition, like performance team, we did a lot, like all the different types of genres. So I feel like I've done a little bit of everything for sure.
That's awesome. Very cool. Okay, so you obviously you've done our math programs, right?
Yeah.
And what was it like for you doing math before you did our programs? Did you like math before our
I
program?
did not like math.
No.
I did not like math at all. And we tried a few different math curriculums when we were first trying out homeschooling, and nothing was really like working for me. I just, everything, nothing really made sense, and everything was tedious. And I definitely didn't like math. And I remember one day, it was like over the summer, my mom was talking about our different options. Just like, okay, we don't have, like, I'm trying to find like all the possible options that we could try, because we tried like I'd only been homeschooling for a year, and I had already tried 2 different math programs that weren't working for me. And so she was like, hey, I found this really cool program called Mr. D Math, and you would go to a live class so he can explain things to you. And she explained the whole program. And I was like, that sounds really cool. Like, I'll try that out. And like going to your classes made everything make sense. Like, you definitely explained math in a way that made sense to me and definitely fit the way I learn. And so math became so much easier for me, and I didn't struggle with math the whole time I did program, and it wasn't as tedious or like awful anymore because I actually knew what I was doing.